Just for information, I am Chief Richard Juve, Chief of Staff of the Sheriff's Office. From when we last met from the last meeting here, your last meeting, you have requested an update on our staffing. So we come staff from 5 years. So we started from 2017 up to now. So per our PowerPoint presentation we have here, it's going to cover the total positions our department has budgeted for, and then the actual staffing that we have now, in addition to the difference between authorized and actual staffing. I'm not a tech guy. Can you help me?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yay.
That's it right there. Okay, so we're going to start out with 2017, what we have here. In 2017, we were authorized for 1,158. Our actual back then was 992.5. So the change from that staffing from the overall was 165.5. If you look at the sworn, we're at 85% capacity. Professional authorized here, we're at 123, and we only get 98. I guess it's more that for professional staff, it's hard to recruit on that note. In 2017, we had authorized 99, and we had 95.5 cadets that came in that was employed with us. As we move on to the following years, you will see in 2018, our numbers are a little bit lower. We change of 156, and our authorized then was 940. So at that time, actual was 824, operated at 88%. So same thing with the professional, still stays at 76%, and the cadets were at 90. In 2019, we were authorized for 1174. We had actual 995 total employees. If you look at the sworn, we operated at 87%. Again, the professional staff remains at 72%. And the cadets operate, we have at 84% higher. As we go into 2020, we're authorized then by 1,175. Our actual was 987 total. We have minus 188 employees total. We operated at sworn at 85%, and professional at 77%, and then at cadets with at 83%. Here's the difference. This is when COVID kicked in. We're authorized for 1191 total. Total staff was 927. We're a total of change from that from the previous years, 264. If you look at our staffing for sworn, it was authorized for 933. We're down to 744. Same thing with the professional staff has gone lower with 67%. And again, with cadets at 75%, and that's at 2020, the start of the pandemic and everything going on. Also with the environment that was happening back then. Our final, if you look at it, it's much worse. Everything's in red. We're authorized at 1191. We have actual total 855. We're at 336 short total. If you look at a sworn, we had authorized 933. We are down to 675. Again, with the professionals, 142 authorized, we're working at 97. And with our cadets, if you see, it's almost half. It's 116, down to 83. We have a graph here if you need a better look at it from there. The red, the light green indicating the sworn on top. If you look at it, it goes from top from the year 2017 down to 2022. Same thing representing with the professional staff and then the overall staff. And then we have sworn from that point on. That is what we have up to date for now. So our challenges right now that we're going through is the training portion of it, in addition to COVID that affected us. And then now, because of the shortage of staffing, our current staff that's short right now, it has to go through mandatory staffing to cover the courts and the jails and everything else. So if you can see, they are working an exorbitant amount of extra hours to try to keep the sheriff's office in operation. What we're trying to do now is for recruitment, we're trying to do an aggressive recruitment drive. We're on billboards now. We're doing digital advertising. We're on the bus. We're on the buses, as you can see. If you drive by, and I know there was a billboard in Oakland that says we're hiring. So we're really trying to recruit very massively. And this is, we're part of the makeup of law enforcement. Everyone's having a tough time in other agencies too, along with ourselves. But we did partner up to try to increase that recruitment drive. We partnered up with the Army. It's called the PAYS program. And what that encompasses is that when a military personnel is ready to get discharged, they can go through the testing process and go through the process while they're in their last year or last 6 months in the military. So then by the time, hopefully, that when they are discharged, that we are able to hire them, provided that they pass all the qualifications. And then, again, we've been attending job fairs all over the city, including the Peninsula, Bay Area. We've been going over trying to recruit massively. So that's where we're at as far as the recruitment and the staffing is right now. Any questions?
Have you seen applications increase as a basis after those recruitment efforts?
We've been very lucky. I think it's because the sheriff's office has a different type of job scope. So we're doing better than the police department. That's all I can say. We average anywhere between, on every time we go out, anywhere between 10 to 20 applicants. So we're going all over, trying to push, and we constantly continue to push. We're also trying to encourage to do a collaboration where we're trying to encourage our employees to be part of our recruiting program, to promote the department, promote the office about what the job is. That way people can hear about it from line staff and everybody else.
And then, Chief, it wasn't in the slide, but I'm always interested to see, especially when it comes to our law enforcement agencies, like how many folks in the Sheriff's Department live here in the city versus outside the city.
I think we're pretty tough because San Francisco is a high cost of living.
Of course.
I think the majority, I can probably safe to say at least 70% do not live in the city. Compared to the police department, the same thing. There were about 70 to 85% people who do not live in the city because of the cost of living.
So it looks like you've suffered significant drop in the deputies, personnel involved in custody. How does that compare with the number of individuals in custody over that same 5-year period?
Well, we're trying to keep our numbers low in custody right now. I mean, we try to keep it an average, at least 800, a little bit of 800 at most, if we can. The courts are here also, too, trying to alleviate some of the lockup, too, by putting them like on electronic monitoring. So they're sending them the community programs and everything. So we're trying to maintain that as much as possible, especially, too, with the current situation with COVID. It's still active, and so we're still requiring that people still wear their masks and get tested and everything, not to mention the mpox, too. So there is a lot of issues that are happening, and in relationship with that, with the inmate, the prisoners, the staffing is low, so our staff is getting a little bit burnt out because they have to work sometimes double shift just to cover it, to make the jails and the courts safe, and the rest of our programs, too.
I guess what I'm interested in is the So we'd say average daily population, would that be the correct term?
Yes,
During the period 2017 to 2022, and how that corresponds to the staffing? Because what I've heard from you in the press is that the amount of mandatory overtime has increased dramatically.
yes, it has. Yes, it has. And we're, like we said, because of the COVID situation and everything, we're trying to keep the numbers down. But the staffing still has to be able to cover all these shifts and everything. So, but again, we go back to COVID, we go back to burnout, we go back to people who may want to seek other careers in another department. We lose a lot from attrition too. And so we're trying to recruit more to try to accommodate that. Unfortunately, it looks like the recruitment doesn't keep up with the attrition.
Would it be possible for you to get us the figures on the average daily population during that same time period so we could compare it with the number of deputies assigned to the custody division?
Well, the numbers right now, as you look at it, we're at 673, so we're trying to keep up.
Right.
You can already see that the population is bigger than the amount of employees that we do have that's all there in custody. So that's why it's mandating the overtime to keep up with this.
Right, understood. That's the population now, but I'd like to see what the population was in 2017, 2018, 2019, and how that compares to the number.
I don't have those figures right now.
Okay, but yeah, I'm saying for the future, can you
I
get?
was mainly looking at this,
Yes.
the staffing that you were talking about, not in relation to what's happening in the population.
Okay, is it possible to
We
get
can
that?
come back with that number again in the next session, but right now I do not have it.
And compared to those prior years at San Bruno, do you have the same number of pods occupied, more pods occupied, or fewer pods occupied? Because I know each pod has required, I guess, 2 deputies in that pod. When I took the tour, there were 2 deputies at each pod.
Yeah, I have to bring someone that's more familiar with the county jails right now, because I'm just here reporting the staffing mode right now. As far as the operation is concerned, I have to bring somebody that's there. Okay, do you understand that I've only been with the sheriff's office for 2 years?
And then regarding recruitment, I know a lot of law enforcement agencies are also recruiting.
Yeah,
I know that many individuals, if they decide to career in law enforcement, will apply to multiple agencies and often take the job that is first offered to them because they want to start in their career. So what are you doing to, address the time frame issue of people who apply and, move the process along?
we're going on the same practices as the police department. It is a slow process. They have to go through 8 phases of different examinations, and that does include a background check and the medical and the psychological and everything else. So they do have to go in steps before we can go on that. We do ask that we do try to expedite, but we have to be very thorough since we are giving these new employees a great responsibility. So we have to be very, very, very detailed as far as what we're doing on that.
Right, and as you know, I worked at DPA, so I was aware that SFPD had a fair number of lateral transfers from other departments.
Yes.
Sheriff's Department getting lateral transfers, and how are those handled?
We do get laterals. Laterals do, some apply, not as many as the PD, but we do get a handful, and they do go through a process. They don't have to go to the academy, but they do have to go to the background check and then go through a core course and everything else and get an orientation from us to go through that process. But the recruitment drive for laterals is not as abundant compared to somebody who wants a new job as freshly as a deputy.
Other questions?
I had a couple of questions. So first of all, in terms of the electronic monitoring, can you kind of talk a little bit about the challenges, how the Sheriff's Department does oversight and what other additional personnel might be needed as opposed to being in custody? I mean, that's a fixed location, but if people actually have to go out and monitor the different people, I suspect that takes more personnel and more hours.
We do need more personnel. I mean, right now we're very short-staffed in that unit right now. We're very short-staffed. So we're having our deputies over there. They're working sometimes a double shift, or sometimes because it's shorter, we have to shift them to another unit to work that unit.
So at the next meeting, could you talk about the staffing for that electronic monitoring and how many people are currently monitored? Average, maybe?
I don't have that number. I'll have to bring that back to you as far as electronic monitoring. Again, I was just here to just staffing for that.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean at the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah.
And then the other part is in terms of recruitment, it's one thing to recruit. It's a whole nother thing for someone to actually make it through the entire academy. And what is the percentage of people who tangle out and don't make it through the academy?
Well, on average, for every department, including ours sometimes, we don't have a big abundance, but usually we send about anywhere between 6 and 10, maybe 15 recruits at one time. But like knock on wood, we've been having a success rate where mostly everyone has passed the academy. And it could be due because we do give a pre-academy to prepare them for that. And we give them a good pep talk. So hopefully they can stay the 20 weeks or the 26 weeks, depending on which academy they do attend. So I can't, as far as the percentage wise, if it was going to happen, it's not every class. Maybe one or two would not make it, or they decide to resign because they found out the job's not for them.
And then does the Sheriff's Department have something similar to the PAL program with the Police Department in terms of working with kind of junior exposure?
We have a junior deputy program. We have a lot of youth programs that we do go out there and we try to do outreach out there.
And anything at Stonestown, I see a competing Alameda County Sheriff's recruitment, big poster.
Alameda's a big recruiter,
Yeah.
and they sell a lot. Any more questions for you? Okay, I know that you wanted to, I didn't want to take too much of your time, so I just kind of, we have the caseload that you were asking about. Right now, we just covered custody, and I just covered the 2 months that we had in the past 2 months so far. And just to kind of give you the total that we received in July of 2022, if you look at the numbers there. In the red, it just says that in July 2022, we had a total of 5 cases that overall, 3 of them, if you look at it, was crimes against the person. And then we had 1 property crime. And then others were just 1. And then so that total with, if you split it up, it was 5 felonies actually and 2 misdemeanors. 3 of them are active, still open for investigation, and 2 of them are currently closed right now.
Chief Drew, are these cases involving people in custody or involving?
People in custody, yes.
Okay.
And then in August, we had received 26 cases. If you look at it, we had over here, if you look in the colors over here, 11 of them were felonies and 18 of them were misdemeanors. So again, breaking it down, 15 was crimes against the person. We had 1 property crime. We had 3 sex crimes, and the rest were 7 others. And that may be related to vandalism. And if you have not heard, we had 1 vandalism case a few days ago that we had to report because that person vandalized the water sprinkler and damaged our County Jail 3, or County Jail 1, with the extension amount of money that goes into 6 figures that we have to now do for repairs.
And do you have figures on internal investigations of complaints against deputies?
That would go with our IA. I would have to have them get the numbers on that. Basically, you ask for criminal investigations, not related to IA, I didn't think. So we already went to, that's why we only went to custody. But we can, next round, I can bring our lieutenant over here to talk about our IA cases.
Yeah, I would be interested in getting a sense of the number of complaints and the disposition of them, the findings, and then also some figures, I don't know if you could provide these or the city attorney could provide these, on lawsuits against the Sheriff's Department and settlements.
Okay, that would go with IA and also with our legal team. And we'll have to discuss that. We'll plan that out for the next meeting.
Okay. Recognize, we all know that a lawsuit does not mean something happened.
Well,
The city sometimes has to settle as a cost-saving measure, but I think it would be useful to just get a look at those figures. and have a sense of what.
You know, we'll bring our IA team in here.
Okay,
and we
great.
can go ahead and explain that to you.
So when you, when you say lawsuits against the city, do you mean in what time period? Like, so if that's something, because it's something that I would probably be the one to pull up, like, you're talking about times that either a deputy or the department was sued in what period of time?
Well, could we say would the last 5 years be a reasonable period?
I think it'd be better to start with the last year. And I've
Okay.
in the past for other departments, and I think just a more my guess is it's going to be a more, I haven't looked at to see what it is involved, but I would recommend a year.
Okay. No, I just have no idea what we're talking about.
I don't either at this.
Yes, okay. And then, Chief, one other thing I would be interested in, obviously you have, many says there's a lot of people out on leave, and I don't know how much of that is for medical reasons, others, but I would be interested in figures on the number of attacks on deputies. I'm assuming we track that because it would be considered an assault.
You mean deputies or disability and all that? Is that what you're?
Well, no, actual assaults on deputies by incarcerated people in the jails.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that for you.
I know that's sometimes be a factor in morale and in staffing. And we would hope it doesn't happen, but unfortunately, I'm certain that it does.
Yeah, we had some recent cases that did happen. So they're still being investigated right now.
Okay, well, I would just interested in figures, not any details about that would violate anyone's confidentiality. I'd like to know, perhaps over time, are they increasing? Are they decreasing? Is diminished staffing or increased overtime potentially leading to more assaults on deputies?
Oh, yeah, we'll bring that up, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any more questions related to this? Okay, so I know you had asked about our access for our incarcerated who has access to education. And as you all know, hopefully, we do have a lot of programs related to, that's in our jails and everything. One of them is our 5 Keys program. I do have the policy related to that, if each one of you would like to look at it. I believe it's also in your USB drive that we gave to you in training. So if you don't want one, I'm fine with that. Would anybody like one before I move on? Okay. So just to kind of go over they do have access. There is a policy related to it. The criteria is usually for non-sentenced inmates housed in the general population. They're all eligible to apply for 5 Keys. Again, the 5 Keys is a charter school, and before they can get in, they have to go through an assessment program to try to figure out where they can place them when they go to the academics on there. Again, it doesn't matter about gender or ethnicity or anything like that. Everybody's still eligible. Everyone has access to that part of it. Again, there are rules that they have to follow. Again, there's not a mandatory where they can get disqualified or dismissed. It's just a recommendation or of a guideline for them. If they do violate rules of the policy here, they're going to get reviewed before anything happens on that. If they cannot finish their 5 Keys education, there is a post-release where they can go out and still complete their education after post-release on there. We do offer other programs. There's about 13 other programs that are involved in the jails, County Jail 2 and County Jail 3. They both have access to all those programs available to them. And that concludes my presentation, unless you got any more questions.
Do any board members have questions?
Oh, I just wanted to say, I think there's also trade jobs training as well as part of it.
Yes, there is job training, and we're also connected to City College, and they help us out too. So we're trying to expand it, our courses even more.
I had read a press account several weeks ago saying that the educational programs were paused because of staffing issues. Is that accurate, and to what extent?
There was a pause because of shortage of staffing, but also COVID did play a role in that too. Our director is in charge, Alyssa Riker, And usually, she always says there's not enough staffing. Program are usually the first to go. So that's why we want to we are aggressively trying to improve the staffing part of it right away so we can get these programs and everything back up to par.
So are there any educational programs that are currently taking place in the jails?
Currently, right now, they are. They have access to it right now.
And could you describe what that access is and what the programs are?
Let me go pull it out in my notes here. So currently, right now, besides the Five Keys program, they have access to a program called One Family, where staff helps family members of the incarcerated to go and have video visits right now, and they facilitate that. We also have the San Francisco Public Library that delivers books to the jails on a regular basis over there. We have access to city college classes. There's a mentoring men's movement, and that group they work from jails and Zoom. They're available to that. There is a Stanford lecture portion that we do have. Substance abuse treatment program, violence prevention program. Also, we have programs for veterans. Those are just a few that I just named.
And are those all virtual or any of them in person?
Right now, some are in person, and some of them are virtual, and some have been postponed because of staffing.
And of the ones that have been postponed for staffing, do you have a sense of how many and which ones those are?
I don't have those numbers yet.
Okay. Do you have a sense when those ones that are being paused might be resumed?
Well, I can give you more detail in the next round. I can
Okay.
also bring the person in charge of the program.
Okay, great, thank you.
No, just statement, if I could, President Rector. I think, first and foremost, Chief Chu, thanks for coming out today. I think it's a real opportunity for us to kind of work through the presentation in which we want to see from the Sheriff's Department, and just really want to make sure that, as we look at item number 9, making sure that we agendize some of the topics for discussion in that section so that folks get the opportunity to make sure they're bringing the information before us. I think would be good. I just want to say thank you.
Sure, and I didn't know if you were going to leave. I would like to say, I know that I did a tour of San Bruno before the pilot program, the Crow's Nest program, was implemented. I would be interested, and maybe 2 of my fellow board members might be interested in going out to see how that works, because I've been trying to visualize it, and I've had a difficult time with that. I know no more than 3 of us can be present at any one place, but we can work through Mr. Lung to see if we can schedule that at a convenient time for the department.
We can probably work that out. I need to talk to the chief deputy in charge of that and the captain and give us a few dates and times, and then we can probably rearrange it.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thank you all so much. Also, I think it's really important to keep in mind that we've also heard how very much understaffed our sheriffs are. So I think we want to be thoughtful about when we think about the future agenda items and the schedulings as to what is the priorities and why is it that we would need certain things at certain times, because we want to make sure that our deputies are also healthy and, working double time and doing all the things. They're also members of community. You want them to be, not on medical leave and whatnot. So we really do greatly appreciate your presentation now. And we know that this is a new commission. So, we'll work with you to figure out the best way to facilitate the delivery of information in a way that is not overburdensome, but reasonable in terms of what our action items are and what we're planning on doing here.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got
you.
one more question. What role does the sheriff department play in making sure that the courtrooms are open and available for people to have their constitutional hearing to a speedy trial?
Well, that would, we work with them, with the Supervisor Ronan, who was the one that was very helpful, tried to push it through. We've been working on opening some of the courts in the civil division, in the civil courts. But we're still working on that. And again, it goes back to staffing. And then it goes to the whole public safety and officer safety issue, to go ahead and staff those areas. And again, if you look at the numbers, we're down at 600. So that requires additional staffing to cover those areas. But we are still in the works. We're still working with and cooperating with Supervisor Roden in that relationship.
I was just going to add, Commissioner Palmer, I have been to court watch in the last couple of months, so there are people who actually have refused to show up and waive their right to a speedy trial. So we also have victims waiting to be able to confront the defendants and haven't been able to. But I've been in the preliminary hearings for several cases, so that's been the issue as well.
That's it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess we'll go to public comment now.
For members of the public who would like to make public comment on line number 7, if you are present, please line up at the podium. Otherwise, please call 415-655-0001 and enter access code 2494-677-6879. Press 3 to raise your hand to be added to the queue. Yes.
Thank you, Board, and congratulations to the President and Vice President. My name is Ken Lamba. I'm the DSA President, and I'm very glad that you are speaking about staffing. I think this Board should make staffing a priority. As the President of the DSA and our Board, we have researched the staffing issues for many years. And if you look into it and if you dive deep into it, we're not the only ones that looked into it. The civil grand jury has. They've written multiple reports. The Controller's Office has. They have written multiple reports. This is a continuous problem. It's so much of a problem. I have listened to every reason, every excuse from the Sheriff's Department. I've researched it. The most recent and last excuse led me to the Controller's Office, where I met with the Controller. And I do agree with the Sheriff's Office that the Sheriff's budget is a problem, and so does the Controller. The budget needs to be higher and appropriate. That is partial effect, but that's not the only effect of our staffing crisis. And here we are today, we're talking about staffing, and that is the priority, that should be the priority, because really, if you think about it, what does it affect? It affects safety inside the jails. It affects peace, keeping the peace. It affects programs, going to programs. It affects walk time. It affects, gym time. It affects medical appointments. It affects court trials, like you brought up. It's the cog in the wheel that slows everything down. It's the cog in the wheel where our deputies are getting attacked because of lack of staffing. It's the cog in the wheel because other incarcerated people are being attacked. Employees are being attacked. This needs to be the priority. This needs to be your priority. And I also like to say, although the Sheriff's Office, presents that they are aggressively hiring and they are trying to recruit, on the contrary, based on our research, there's trying and there's doing. And the trying, there needs to be a little bit more fire under the trying. There needs to be a lot more urgency under the trying. The marketing and the recruiting right now, pretty much that started in June. Prior to that, there was little to no marketing. The recruiting was very weak. The department relied on other employees referring to their family and friends and to their network to get new applicants, and it worked well until these last 2 years, where morale has decreased to the lowest levels, to where our contract has been violated multiple times, to the point of our members losing time off because of contract violations, to the point of applicants coming in with experience, with academy certificates, laterals, getting underpaid and getting paid at a training wage when that never happened prior to 2020. So there's problems within the department that I urge you to look at. Now, if we fix all those inter-department problems where they've impacted staffing, where they promoted deputies to sergeants, and I mean a lot of sergeants during a staffing crisis, where they skipped and not offered testing for senior deputy, which could have balanced some of the issues with the impact of staffing instead of going from deputy to sergeant.
I think we've hit the time limit for your public comment. My apologies, but I think we do need to adhere to that.
Thank you, but please research it and look into it.